Hi, everyone. This webinar is part of our new on-demand series, Innovation with Tech During COVID-19, where we explore how our customers and our partners have innovated to combat the challenges posed by this current pandemic. We've seen some really creative ideas, whether that is through building new apps, forging new partnerships, or using technology in new ways. I'm Trisha Johnson, a program manager in our partner marketing team here at Relativity, and I'm really excited for today's conversation with Jeff Griffiths, a principal in the discovery practice of Deloitte Transactions and Business Analytics LLP. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Trisha. Looking forward to the conversation. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So Jeff, you and your team have built an app called Claims on RelativityOne when COVID hit to help your clients track their COVID-related expenses and determine which costs were recoverable from payers. Can you share a bit about that application you built on top of RelativityOne?
Absolutely. So in this case, we built a custom workflow to support the COVID expense claims process. Between the line item transactional data and supporting documentation, there's a lot of information to centralize, review, and track. We are using RelOne to pull in the financial data from the transactional systems and group it or marry it with the underlying supporting documentation, the POs, the invoices, relevant emails and memos, etc. We have layered over it some specific analytic services that help validate the initial claims are coded correctly, and secondly, identify expenses that may have been missed, adding to the net recoverable portfolio available to the client. Additionally, we've developed some relevant dashboarding the client can use from a management and reporting perspective. You'll get a little flavor of each in the demo we have queued up.
Great. Looking forward to seeing that demo. But before we do dive into the demo, I want to touch on innovation a bit here. So Deloitte is a huge leader in this space when it comes to building custom apps that help your clients solve complex challenges. In addition to this Claims app that we're going to demo here in a moment, another Deloitte application, Audio Discovery, actually won a 2020 Innovation Award at Relativity Fest. So why is innovation so crucial to Deloitte, and why is it important during this time?
Innovation is one of the core values or points of orientation for Deloitte. We take an outside-in view of Deloitte and the markets in which we operate, working to drive solutions to our clients that they are identifying as relevant. We have strategic growth plans and funding earmarked for emerging and disruptive technologies, and a lot of the work and/or development we are doing with RelOne is focusing on helping our clients address a broader range of business challenges than just discovery. And that is very much reflective of that orientation.
Awesome. So innovation is just a key of who Deloitte is.
Absolutely. It's in our DNA.
Awesome. Awesome, Jeff. Thank you for that. Now, let's get into the whole detail and let's see this in action.
Claims, short for COVID-19 Loss Analytics and Information Management System, is a full-featured data-driven platform to assist companies with their COVID-19 related claims management. This platform facilitates audit-ready claim filings by synthesizing the reimbursable financial transactions, the underlying supporting documentation, and the associated decisioning logic. With the data integrated in one place, companies can leverage analytics to identify and validate reimbursable expenses, generate expense and claims-based projections in upcoming months, perform ad hoc analysis by interrogating the index data, and monitor the overall claims process. The Claims platform is designed on enterprise-level software that has been used on many claims-related litigation, investigation, and financial reconstruction matters. We're going to walk through the demo of the end-to-end claims functionality in the facet of 3 company personas important for claims management. The first persona is the transaction reviewer, who is responsible for reviewing financial transaction line items to identify those that may qualify for reimbursement. The second persona is the document reviewer, who will then assess those potential reimbursable transactions against the underlying support to help the company make eligibility, amount, and reimbursable source recommendations. These company decisions can then be extracted from the platform to help the company with its actual claims filings. The third and final persona is the executive reviewer, who is responsible for managing the entire reimbursement program. Persona A, Transaction Reviewer. The first step in the claims management process is to review the structured financial data, leveraging analytics to identify potentially reimbursable expenses. In the claims platform, the Transaction Reviewer is able to analyze all expenses that the company has flagged as COVID-19 related to assess accuracy of coding, identify potential additional recoverable expenses that were not initially flagged as COVID-19 related by the company, and finally, allocate the claim amount to the appropriate payer. The first view is for expense transactions flagged by the company as COVID-19 related. The Transaction Reviewer can use this view to efficiently identify potential outliers that require further analysis. For example, when the Transaction Reviewer selects the Personal Protective Equipment (PPE) expense category and chooses N95 respirators, they can see the transactional activity over time for the expense category, the item itself, and the corresponding breakdown by vendor. This can reveal outliers, such as this $40,000 transaction processed in early January 2020 before the COVID-19 crisis began in the U.S. The Transaction Reviewer is now able to flag this transaction for further review. In short, the claims platform enables the Transaction Reviewer to efficiently analyze the spectrum of expense categories to help validate accurate coding. This next view enables the Transaction Reviewer to assess transactions not initially identified by the company as COVID-19 related. This helps the company have line of sight into complete potential cost recovery. For example, the Transaction Reviewer can elect to see the data by the emergency response category and then patient monitoring equipment. In this case, projected expenses are less than actual expenses. The projections in this illustrative example are made via a machine learning model that considers historical transactional data, seasonality, location, and outbreaks. The difference between the model prediction and the actual expense amount may be attributable to a surge in expenses related to COVID-19. In this instance, the Transaction Reviewer identified a supplier that appears to have been used exclusively during the COVID-19 related timeframe in February and March 2020. The reviewer can then select purchases from this vendor for deeper analysis. In this case, the Transaction Reviewer notes that the model predicted an expense of $450,000 during normal course of business in this location, while the actual spend was for $1.25 million. The difference, $800,000, may be potentially recoverable. This data-driven approach helps the Transaction Reviewer isolate hidden transactions across the expense population. At this point, the Transaction Reviewer has identified transactions, both flagged and not flagged by the company, that are potentially in scope for reimbursement. The next step is to send these transactions over to the Document Reviewer for the next layer of analysis. Persona B, Document Reviewer. The Document Reviewer can now validate those expense line items received from the Transaction Reviewer against supporting records, make recovery allocation decisions for the company, and assist as the company makes its claim submission. Document Reviewers will now see expenses and their supporting documents assigned to their queue for review. The Document Reviewer can drill into one of these expenses from the work queue by selecting a document. Then the Document Reviewer can see detailed attributes and all the supporting documentation available for that transaction. The system's Document Viewer supports many document formats and provides search, copy, paste, and other functionality for ease of use for the Document Reviewer. In the Expense Details view, the Document Reviewer can refer back to details that were received from the transactional review, refer to any associated underlying documentation, or add additional documentation to support the claim. At this stage, the Document Reviewer should have visibility into the range of information that will help the company make an eligibility determination. Note that the review interface is easily configurable and coding layouts, field formats, routing, and workflow logic can all be customized to the company's specifications. When an expense line item has been validated by the company as eligible, the Document Reviewer's next step is to consider funding source allocations. The Document Reviewer can assign values to funding sources, provide details about the reasoning for the allocation, and update the system to reflect the status of any claims that have been made. The Document Reviewer can then flag the transaction as complete, and the document will be automatically routed to an approver's review queue. The system allows for user access to be configured based on user roles, such as reviewers, approvers, or administrators. At this point, the company document reviewer has validated the expense line items against supporting records, made allocation recommendations, and documented associated decisioning logic. The document reviewer flags the transaction as complete, which then automatically generates a file extract that can be used to help populate segments of the claim form. All actions that are performed during the review process are preserved for the duration of the project. The next step is to monitor overall claim status by the executive reviewer. Persona C, Executive Reviewer. At this stage, transactions have been identified for recovery and the supporting records assembled and validated by the company transaction and document reviewers. In addition, extracts from the claims platform could be used to facilitate the company's actual claims filings. The executive reviewer can now monitor the overall process via numerous views made available by the wealth of underlying data in the claims platform. For example, the executive reviewer can see a transaction-level view based on the results of the review, with a breakdown of the expense allocation by funding source and a summary of claim reimbursement, where they can slice findings by location, expense category, and item. The executive reviewer can also see a view into the various stages of the analysis. A waterfall chart provides a breakdown of each step of the review process, quantifying expenses initially flagged by the company, a subset that was removed based on the review, potential offsets due to cost savings from canceled procedures, additional expenses identified through the analytics, non-recoverable amounts excluded per regulatory guidelines, and ultimately derive the net recoverable amount, which is allocated to each payer. An expense breakdown by category can also provide the executive reviewer with additional insights on how expenses are allocated by payer. A more detailed summary below provides a view of the adjustments made and net recoverable amount by expense item. Finally, a geospatial analysis helps not only track expenses by location, but also understand the correlation of the number of COVID-19 cases with the expense amount by region. The claims platform provides an end-to-end experience to support the company as it makes decisions and prepares its submissions through the entirety of the claims management process. It is data-driven, highly configurable, and audit-ready. The claims platform is grounded in time-tested technologies and analytics. It is designed to make this difficult, time-consuming, but ultimately critical process more efficient, streamlined, and configurable for the company.
Thanks for that demo, Jeff. That's a really cool app. What's the feedback in the market been about it?
So in the general, we're getting feedback that it's allowing the folks who are embarking on this challenge to reduce the size of the team they need by an order of 2 or 3. Likewise, the conversation and the efficiencies and transparency around the customized workflow tailored to that specific client is very positive. As well, consistent feedback we get is the usefulness of the audit capabilities, specifically for when the government is expected to request this audit information months or even years from now.
That's fantastic feedback. So looking beyond COVID-19, what are your plans for the application? Are there other use cases for this workflow, other things in the works?
There are. However, first, we're developing other flavors of the COVID-related claim solution tailored to other industries. Energy and utilities is where we're focusing next. Outside of COVID, we think it has some extensibility to the broader claims market. If claims stands for COVID Loss Analytics Information Management System, you could easily replace the C with catastrophe and tailor the solution to help with other types of claims processes. Flood, fire, hurricane, etc.
Awesome.
Likewise, one more point. Likewise, we're looking at some applications to bankruptcy and in the insurance market.
Nice. I like that creative reuse of the same name.
Gotta have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for joining us and walking us through claims.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.